Hi, my name is Nathan. You're watching Nice at Dice, and today I'm going to be doing a brief playthrough of my game Warriors and Writings. I've already done 2 playthroughs of the free introductory edition of this game that you can find on DriveThruRPG or itch.io. There'll be links in the description of this video if you want to go check out that free version of the game. But today I'm going to be doing a partial playthrough of the standard edition, or you could sort of think of it as like the full version of the game, which is currently funding on Kickstarter. And again, there'll be a link in the description to this video if you want to go check out that project on Kickstarter. But today I'm going to be doing just a partial playthrough just to give you a quick idea of how this game plays. If you don't know anything about it, that's fine. I'll walk you through it. We're going to play through the first few rounds of the game so you can get a good feel of what's involved here. We'll go right over to the table and get right into it, and I'll just explain as we go. So first thing in the game of Warriors and Writings, this is a print and play game. It comes as a digital file. You just need to print out a few sheets of paper to play on. You'll need to provide your own dice, 2 or 3 or more 6-sided dice. You really need 3. If you have multiple players, it's nice to have a couple of extra, but you need 3. And you'll need something to mark with. Really, you'll want a pencil to mark on the hero sheet, because there's things that you'll be marking and erasing on here. But on the map, the dungeon that you're going into, you could use a pencil, or in this case I'll be using a marker so you can see it more clearly on the camera. And on the hero sheet, I'll be doing something a little bit different than using pencils, because you won't be able to see pencil marks on camera, but I'll get to that in a moment. So let's just walk through basically what you have here. You have 3 sheets of paper. You have your dungeon that you're going through. If you're playing, you can play this solo, is what I'm doing right now, but you can play it multiplayer competitively, in which case each player will have their own copy of the same dungeon that you're going through. Today we're going through the Goblin Tunnels. It's the simplest kind of introductory map for the game. And then each player will have a sheet for their character. You can all play as different characters or the same character, whatever you like. Today I'm playing as the Knight. The Knight has a special ability called Knight's Shield, which allows him to mark damage from enemies on his shield to just kind of absorb that damage before it goes to his health, which is over here indicated by these 3 heart icons. He also has Grit, which he's got 5 triangles representing his 5 points of grit. You can spend Grit to power some of your special abilities, but also to manipulate the values of the dice. And we'll get to that again as we go along. You also have a space to record your conditions. We won't worry too much about conditions. It probably won't come into play in these first few rounds. But basically you can get things like bleeding or poisoned or whatever, the ongoing conditions that affect you round to round. And then you have a space to record your gold that you've collected. That's really the objective of the game. You have to get through the dungeon to the boss and defeat the boss in order to qualify. But then everybody who's qualified at the end of the game compares how much gold they've collected, and whoever has collected the most gold is the winner. And then you have a space to record your experience points. Experience points are collected as you defeat enemies on the map, and then you spend them to acquire more talents, which are your character's abilities that sort of distinguish them from other characters. You have a space to record your inventory. There's 4 types of items you can collect. And you have a special merchant option, something special your character can do anytime they visit a merchant, which there's a couple of merchants on this map. We've got one up over here in this corner, and then another one closer to the boss. When you go to merchants, you can buy items to add to your inventory. You can also sell items that you may have picked up from treasure chests and such on the map. And you can use your special merchant option, which for the Knight is repairing his shield. Okay, then you have 3 basic actions. The Knight has an honorable advance. He can spend an action die to move, essentially. There's a little more to it than that. We'll get into that later. He has a lunging strike, which lets him, just like hop one space and then attack an adjacent enemy. And he can rest, which lets him spend an action die to recover all of his grit. Any that he has spent comes back. And then you have talents. 5 different talents available to the Knight, but we're going to start out with just 1. And like I said, I'm not going to be marking on this. You need to use pencil on this, or if you laminate it, you can use a dry erase marker. But it'd be really hard for you to see my pencil marks, so I'm going to be using some little different colored cubes like this that I have to mark damage. So we use that to mark 1 damage on health. We'll use this here to mark that I've spent 1 grit, and etc. Right? So that'll just help you to follow along better with the bird's eye view there. And then finally over here, we have a reference sheet for this particular map. It tells me what the different types of enemies are, what their stats are, what they're going to do, how they attack me. It tells me the details of the one condition that is pertinent to this map, which is bleeding. Some of these enemies might give me the bleeding condition. We have a treasure table that we're going to roll on anytime we pick up treasure. We have a trap table that we'll roll on anytime we cross a trap. And we have the merchant table, which is where we know what's available at a merchant to buy and how much it'll cost us to buy those items. So that's all depends on which map you're playing, and that's just going to set off to the side as a reference. All right, so let's get right into it. Basically what you're doing, each round you're going to roll these 2 dice, and we're going to see what the values are. We have a 2 and a 6. Now everybody in a multiplayer game is going to play off of those same 2 values. Right away, before I do anything with those values, if I wanted to, I could spend grit from my character to adjust the values. I would be adjusting those values only for myself, not for other players. They'd still be playing off of 2 and 6 unless they spend grit as well. But then after I've spent grit to adjust the values, I got to use those values to perform actions. So we start down here in the bottom left corner where it says start, and I'm going to give you just a slightly closer look at this map, especially the part that we'll be playing in to begin with. So we're going to be starting here where it says start. We're going to move up and around through these paths. We've got some enemies to deal with. We have a goblin cutter. We have a goblin archer. We have a pile of treasure here we want to collect. We have a trap we're going to have to deal with. We have a door over here that's locked. So if we want to get to the treasure behind it, we'll have to get past the door. And then over here we have a troll, which is a larger, more threatening enemy. And that might be as far as we get in our first, in our quick little playthrough. But we'll take it one round at a time. So we have a 2 and a 6. So first of all, let's use this 2 to do our honorable advance. And before I get started on any of that, wow, I completely forgot about this. We need to select a talent. We get to start with one of these 5 talents of our choice. So let's go with, let's just go with this shield bash. I really like the shield bash. It's always a good one to have. Okay, so we'll go with the shield bash. And right away what we'll do is we will use this 2 for our honorable advance. It tells us to spend an action die and to move up to an equal number of spaces. We don't have to move all 2 spaces, but in this case we will. We're going to move right up to here. So we have moved to this spot next to this goblin cutter. And then we're going to use our shield bash. So using a talent does not require an action die unless it specifically says so. So we can just do it whenever we want. And the shield bash says, mark 1 damage on your shield to deal 1 damage to an adjacent enemy, limited to once per round. So we'll use one of these to mark a damage on our shield. And we'll do 1 damage to the enemy. The goblin cutter, if we look over here, has only 1 health. So 1 damage will take him out. We're just going to cross him out. So we know he has been defeated. When we defeat the enemy, we get golden experience. In this case, we get 1 of each. So we'll just throw a couple of these tokens on here to mark that. So that way you can see what's going on there. So we got 1 gold, 1 experience. And we still have this 6 left to use. So let's go ahead and use that 6 to do another honorable advance. We can do the same action, twice in the same round if we want to. So we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and stop here on this pile of treasure. We're going to cross it off to indicate we've collected it. And when we collect it, we're going to grab our 3rd die sitting off to the side here and roll that. We rolled a 3 and compare that to the treasure table, which is 4 gold. So we get another 4 gold over here. So we'll just throw those on there to represent that. All right, this would not be practical in the long term. But again, I just want you to be able to kind of see what I'm doing here. And the pencil marks wouldn't work for that. So that is 1 round. At the end of the round is basically when the enemies will do stuff. There are no enemies that can affect me where I'm at in this little corner here, so we don't have to resolve any of that. And we just start the next round. In between rounds, you're going to cross off 1 space on this track down here. This is the time track. There are 40 spaces for 40 rounds, so at the end of 40 rounds, whether I have made it to the boss and defeated him or whatever, the game is over for everybody at the end of 40 rounds. And then that would be when, everyone who's defeated the boss gets to compare how much gold they've collected and then go from there, right? Whoever collected the most is the winner. So we'll start the next round with another roll of the dice. Okay, we got a couple of 2s. So what I'm seeing is that the next challenge I'm really up against is if I move around this corner and go up here, I'm going to be facing off against this goblin archer. Now I don't have to actually fight the goblin archer. I could just run up here and take a left or a right. But with 2, let's see, I could use 2 to move here, and then I could use another 2 to move right up below him. That's not a good place because I'll be stopping right where he can just shoot me, and I won't have gained anything. So his defense is 3. Alright, so I'm going to play aggressively here. I'm going to go ahead and spend a couple of grit to make both of these 2s 3s. So they're only 3s for me. Since I'm playing solo, I'm just going to go ahead and adjust them to 3s so I can remember that easily. But so now I have, instead of a couple of 2s, I have a couple of 3s. So I'll use one of those 3s for an honorable advance that lets me move 1, 2, 3, and stop here. And then I'll use the other 3 for my lunging strike. So the lunging strike lets me hop 1 space in any direction. So I'll move up here right next to the goblin archer. And then I compare the value of the die to his defense. His defense is 3, so if I equal or exceed his defense, then I get to deal 1 damage. He only has 1 health, so we'll go ahead and take him out. He does not reward me with any gold, but he does give me a couple of experience points. And that'll be second round. So, again, enemies would act if there were any enemies to do anything, but none of the enemies can reach me. So we'll just go into the third round. This time we've got a 2 and a 6. All right, so, well, let's go ahead and do this. Let's spend a couple more grit. So we only have 1 grit left to change this 2 into a 4. And then we'll try to move this way across this trap over to the door. But when we get to the space where the trap is, we have to roll on the trap table. So we'll do that. And I rolled a 1, which is very unfortunate because a 1 or a 2 on the trap table means 1 damage and my movement ends. This is not damage from an enemy, so it can't go on my shield. It's got to go directly to my health, and my movement ends. So I stop right here on the trap, but we also X out the trap. It's been triggered already, so it won't trigger again. All right. We have used the 4. We still have the 6. We'll just go ahead and use that 6 to finish our movement over and stand in front of the door. That ends the round. There's no enemies that can do anything to me. We just go right into the next round. All right, now I've got a 4 and a 1. So I'm going to use this 1 to use my rest action. The rest action says spend an action die to recover all grit. So I'm going to do that to recover all my grit. And then I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 more grit to make this 4 into a 6. And doors can be busted down by spending a 6. You can also unlock them with a key, but I haven't had a chance to pick up a key yet. So I'm going to use that 6 to bust down the door. And I'm just going to circle it to indicate it is no longer a locked door. And that'll be it for that round. All right, so then next round, we've got a 5 and a 6. We'll use the 5 first to move into this space where the treasure is. We're going to cross out the treasure to indicate that we picked it up. We're going to roll on the treasure table. We rolled a 5. That's going to be 6 gold. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to take these 5 here. And I'm going to set them aside, and I'm just going to say that a red one on the gold is worth 5. So I'm going to put a couple of reds and a blue out there. All right, so we've got 11 gold now. And then I have a 6 left on the action dice, so I'll spin that to move again, and I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and end up right there again. All right, that's it. Again, there's no enemies threatening me. We're just going to end the round and start the next one. All right, I've got a 1 and a 3. So let's see. At this point, I'm going to use the 3 to move 1, 2, 3. Okay, I could spend my last 3 grit to make this 1 a 4. And then I could use my lunging strike to hop over here and take out this guy. And that'll get me 1 more gold, 1 more experience, and that enemy is out of there. I've used all my actions. This guy's too far away to do anything to me, so we're just going to end that round and roll up again. Alright, I've got a 4 and a 3, so I'll use this 3 to move 1, 2, 3 onto this treasure. We'll roll on the treasure table. We rolled a 1, so a 1 gives me my choice of an antidote, an elixir, or a potion. So I'm going to just put the elixir down here. We'll mark that. So I have an elixir now, which I can spend at any time to recover all my grit. And then I have this 4. I could go 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And that'll stop me right here, just out of range of the troll. Okay, so there we go. That's another round down. Going into round 8, rolled a couple of 1s. Well, that's not very helpful. So let's do this. I'm going to use one of those to rest. That'll get me all my grit back. And then the troll has a defense of 3. So if I spend... Okay, you know what? On second thought, I'm not going to rest to do that. I'm going to use my elixir to do that. So I spend my elixir that recovers all my grit. Then I'm going to use 2 grit to make this one into a 3. And I'm going to use another 2 grit to make this one into a 3. I'm going to use that first 3 for a lunging strike. I get to hop up here and do 1 damage to this guy. Now this guy has 3 health, so I'm just going to make a little X kind of next to him there to indicate I've done 1 damage to him. And then I have another 3 available to me. I'm going to spin that to do another lunging strike. Now I don't have to move with the lunging strike, it's just optional, so I'm going to stay right where I am and deal 1 damage to him again. Alright, he's got 1 damage left, and I have a shield bash, so I can put 1 damage on my shield to do 1 damage to him and finish him off. So we finish off the troll. That gets us 2 gold, 3 experience, so we'll mark 2 gold there. Alright, we'll put that like that to mark our experience. And we pick up a key, so I'll just put that there to mark that I have a key now. So keys are useful for opening treasure chests and doors. Alright, and we've taken him out. Nobody else can threaten me where I'm at, so we just finish off the round and we roll up for the next round. Alright, we've got a couple of 5s this time. So let's use one of those 5s to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we'll use the other 5 to take out this goblin that's right there with our lunging strike. And that gets us another gold and another XP. We'll remove these. Throw that out there. Alright. Okay, and that's it. Nobody's threatening me at where I'm at the moment. So now we're going to roll up again. Round 10. We've got a 4 and a 4. Alright, so I'll use 1 4 to move here to where the goblin was. I'll use my key to open this treasure chest. I'll use my other 4 to step onto the spot where the treasure chest is. I'm going to roll on the treasure table. And because it's a chest, instead of just a pile of treasure, I get to add 2 to the roll. So I rolled a 6. That's an 8. Gets me 8 gold. Okay, so I'm going to add 8 gold to my total over here. And that'll be the 10th round. So we're going to kind of wrap things up here and see where we're at. We had 15. We add another 8 to that. So that's 23 gold. That's not bad as a start, and we're about a quarter of the way through the game. And as you can see, I've got a little bit more over here. I could dodge down here, pick up an item, take out another goblin. But then after that, I'm going to have to change direction and go over here and decide how I want to work my way through all this stuff. Do I want to visit this merchant? Maybe trade some of my gold, which is worth points, but I could trade it for items that can help me to get farther through the dungeon. Or if I've picked up items that I don't really need, I could sell them at the merchant for some gold. That'll help me out with my in-game score. You know, again, there's more treasures here I can think about, but they'll take me off the main path, so Do I want to do that? Am I going to run out of time because I have to get to the end and beat the boss before 40 rounds? So those are the types of decisions that I have to make, things I have to weigh and decide how I'm going to go, right? And then as you see, like I come up here, I'm going to have to fight another troll, and then I have a choice. I can either head straight to the left and have to deal with a couple of traps, which are unpredictable and dangerous, or I can move up this way, but it's a longer path and I have to deal with a bunch of enemies. But I might feel more confident about that because you have a little more control about how things go when you're facing enemies than with traps. Over here we have a well, so if I get by that well, I can restore all of my health, all of my grit, remove any conditions I have. So that might be a good place to stop, but again, it could be a little bit of a it takes me off the main path, so I might have to decide if it's worth the time to make that stop, and so forth until I get around to the boss, the Goblin King, and hopefully defeat him before we run out of 40 rounds. So that's basically what's going on here. Hopefully that gives you a good idea how the game works. As I do this, I'm going to get more experience points as well. Once I have 15 experience points, I can spend them to unlock another ability. So I've already gotten good use out of my shield bash, but I could, for example, pick up a cleaving strike that would let me do more damage with my attack, pick up sweeping strike, which would let me deal damage against multiple enemies. If they're, if I can get in a position where there's 2 or 3 enemies next to me, I can hit them all with a single attack. Things like that. So there's a lot of different options for how I upgrade the knight, and the knight is just one of the characters available in the game. The Goblin Tunnels are just one of the maps. So you start mixing up different tunnels, different maps, you get different experiences. All right, so hopefully that gives you a good idea of the general basics of how the game works. Again, there's links in the description to where you can go play the free introductory edition if you want to check that out, give you a little bit more a taste of how the game plays. And there'll also be a link to the Kickstarter project where you can go to back to receive the standard edition, the full version of the game. My name was Nathan. You've been watching Nice at Dice. Thank you so much for watching, and you enjoy the rest of your day.